There's a funny thing in life, and it's that we often try or feel like we have to be something more or better. And when we actually get quiet and look inside, is when we find that everything we were craving is far closer than we realized. Journaling is a vehicle that can take you there, and you've got the tools right in your back pocket, literally. Journaling is a daily ritual that I go to again and again to get clear and rooted and to navigate my everyday. It reminds me of who I am and what is most important. And it's also a centerpiece to how I coach and mentor private clients. My mission when I started journaling was to find the real me and to find a different way of doing life. What happened on the pages of my journal was the beginning of that and far more. Since then, I've used journaling as a tool to help design an intentional marriage, work through who I wanted to be as a mom, explore, savor, and challenge overwhelming moments of everyday life, build a heart-centered business, and again, a go-to for just navigating everyday moments. I never set out to be a coach. Coaching found me, and it all started with journaling. And it has become my mission to pay this forward. I am so excited today to take you through the ins and outs of journaling. We're going to talk about the barriers that keep you from doing it. We're going to shine a light on those fears. We're going to talk about how you can find your why for journaling, the impact it can have in your life, and some simple steps on how to get started. Grab a notebook and let's dive in. I'm Carla Reeves, and this is Differently, the Lifepreneur podcast. I'm a hyperachiever turned lifepreneur, and after a decade of coaching ambitious leaders, I'm convinced we are far closer than we realize to what we deeply desire. And it's a willingness to do differently that can change everything. This podcast is for the everyday leader ambitious for a rich, out-of-the-box life. This is your weekly nudge and reminder to take a risk to build a life that is uniquely bold, authentic, and in alignment with your deepest values. If you relate to being a hyperachiever, struggle to shut your brain down, struggle to set down the to-do list, and deeply want to make more space in your life to breathe, to pick up a hobby or something creative you've been longing to do, or simply to just make more time for the people you love most, and you just can't seem to escape the always working vortex on your own, I invite you to consider coaching with me. We start with an 8-week intensive designed for this very thing. You can find out more by going to my website, carlareeves.com. I would love to support you in channeling your incredible drive and energy to build a highly productive, peaceful, and mostly a deep, rich, fulfilling everyday life. I don't go anywhere without a bag of books. And one or more of those books is always a journal or a notebook. I have a mini notebook in my purse. I have a mini notebook in my car. I keep them in all places. And if I was sent to a remote island and could only take one item, a journal would be in the top 3 choices I have. And here's why. Because it's a simple tool right in my back pocket for my sanity and just to keep my mental health in line. It's a tool for creativity and play and invention. It's entertainment. So if I get bored, I can always figure out something in just a simple notepad and pen. And it's access to my spiritual life. So what is journaling? You probably know this, but it's a form of writing. It's a tool literally in your back pocket. It requires a piece of paper and a pen. It's at your fingertips. It's nearly free. And it can be such an incredible tool for getting to know yourself, separating yourself from your thoughts so that you're not at the mercy of your thinking. It's an incredible tool to find your own voice and your self-expression. It's a great tool for getting clear, for processing overwhelm, for dealing with confusion, for helping yourself move through a decision, navigate a certain season in your life, or just a daily ritual for getting centered. So many benefits. So I want to talk about having a why for journaling. And I think this may, for those of you who may have struggled with consistency, or starting and then stopping, or having lots of beautiful blank journals, but they're all tucked away on a shelf or in your drawer because you don't know where to start, it can be really helpful to have a why for journaling. So while journaling is a daily practice for me in my life now, it didn't really start that way. It started because I was on a mission to figure out how to be a happy mom. And I felt this calling to start writing. And journaling became a vehicle for me to figure out how to be a happy mom, because that was one of the greatest gifts I felt like I could give my kids. And I just started writing, and I showed up and I showed up and I showed up. But that mission is what had me show up over and over and over again. So think about what your why might be for journaling at this particular stage of your life. And that's going to change. And so be open to that. You heard me say at the beginning of the show that journaling was, my why for journaling at one time was to figure out and find the real me. Like, where is she? Who is she? What does she sound like? Other whys for journaling could be to help you navigate through a relationship, or navigate through a change in your career, or just a pivot point in your life. Or maybe you're just dealing with a lot of stress or anxiety and overwhelm, and maybe it's to find more peace of mind. So search in your own heart for what your why is in this particular season of your life. Let's talk about some of the benefits. Some of the benefits of journaling are that it can boost mental clarity and focus. It can reduce stress, calm anxiety, relieve depression, strengthen your immune system, increase optimism. And think about how all of these things ripple to your physical health. And there are so many more benefits. I'm going to put some links to some articles in the show notes that you can look to and discover more of these for yourself. Some of the other benefits are to, as I've said, help you separate from your thoughts, boost your memory, increase your self-discipline, improve communication skills, because you can actually practice what you want to communicate and convey in your journal. It's incredible for healing, for creativity, and for elevating self-confidence. So many benefits. And I've witnessed all of these firsthand watching my clients. I want to share with you some of the transformation I see when I start working with a client. They start journaling online in a private platform, and I guide them through a set of journaling prompts that are intentionally designed to help them understand their own mental noise and how to calm that, how to lighten their load, both things that are weighing them down from the past and things that are weighing them down in the present. And then we kind of move into really tapping into their clarity and vision of where they're heading in their life. I witness some incredible things as people are moving through that. And there's a heaviness that they start with that begins to lighten over time. There's a process of, I'm on the other end of their journal. So there's me loving them until they begin to start to love themselves. And I actually see that happen. They start to tap into their own clarity and their truth. Their confidence goes up. They find their own natural rhythms, both in the writing, but also in their everyday life. And they start to see themselves differently. They literally lighten up. Their energy and vitality increases. Other people start to witness it, and this ripples all over their life into what they do. This is my absolute joy, and why it's the centerpiece to the work I do with clients. Okay, so I want to get into some of the more tangible parts of journaling and address some of the kind of the frequently asked questions. And I'm just going to kind of go through these pretty quickly. So a lot of people say they have lots of beautiful journals in their drawer and on their shelf. and they don't know where to start, or they're afraid to start because it's so beautiful and there's too much pressure. So a couple things I would say to that. One way to start a journal is if you know your why, you could literally kind of write your mission for that journal on that front page. You could also start by writing a quote or a letter to yourself. You could also just leave that first page entirely blank. The other way to take the pressure off, and this is what I do, is using just regular old notebooks. So there's no pressure. And sometimes I like to buy the same kinds, and so they're really consistent. But there's no pressure to keep it beautiful, and I can make a mess in it. So take the pressure off yourself, whatever that is and whatever that looks like. Another question is, should I use paper or computer? I think both are incredibly valuable. There's something about writing in your journal that causes you to slow down and that really gives you more access to your heart. So if it's that kind of journaling that you need, do it on paper. Sometimes my journaling is more creative, or there's just so much in there and my hand can't write fast enough to keep up with my mind. So I like to journal on the computer. So I do a blend of both. Trust yourself to know what kind you need. And if you've never done it, you might start with paper. How often to journal? Initially, I recommend doing it daily or as often as possible, but it doesn't need to be for a long period of time. Start with 5 minutes or even 3 minutes. And you can use timers. I love to use timers for writing. A lot of people say, well, I just talk to my friends. Like, why do I need to journal? And the thing about journaling is it's not about talking. It's about emptying thought, but then it's really more about listening and tapping into your part of yourself that may not be available when you're actively talking. So try that. How many journals should you have? And should you have a journal for separate topics? There's no right way. So if you want to have multiple journals, have multiple journals. If you want to just have one journal with multiple, then you just kind of dump everything in that, do that. And if you're not really sure, just start with one journal. And if you feel like you need to have it more organized in a different way, follow that instinct. The other one is, why can't I stick to it? Why can't I stick to the journaling? I addressed that a little bit, but find a why for your journaling, commit to it, and show up for a period of time. Like, give it a period of time, almost like a test or an experiment, and just see what happens. Be willing to be surprised and then recommit again. So start with smaller chunks instead of, I'm just going to start journaling and I'm going to journal for the rest of my life. That's overwhelming. So break it down into a small structure that feels manageable to you. Start and do it just for 3 days or 7 days or 2 weeks, whatever feels manageable, a little bit of a stretch, but that you feel like you could envision yourself being successful in that. And the last one is, should you keep it? And, for people who have had a bad experience of someone finding their journal, or you just have a fear around that, then write and just get rid of it. Shred it, throw it away. I don't often need to go back and read my journals, but sometimes it's nice to. And so whatever you do, don't let that be a stop anymore, but create your journaling in a way that resolves that fear for you, whether it's keeping it in a password protected journal or doing it online with a coach or throwing it away. Whatever it is, take care of the fear, but don't let it stop you from journaling. Okay, so I want to give you some simple tips to getting started. So first of all, suggestion is to put notebooks in all the places. Put one in your car, put one in your briefcase or purse. Have one available. You might think that you don't have time to journal, but here's where you can find nooks and crannies. Often like waiting for an appointment. Maybe you're waiting in the lobby for an appointment. Great time to pop out your journal. Maybe I call it winning the time lottery, and you have a little bit of extra time between meetings or in your day somewhere. Great time to pull out your journal. Wake up 10 minutes early or stay up 10 minutes late. Use journaling to complete your workday. So it's a great 5-minute activity to just help you transition from work to really being present at home with your loved ones. once you commit to the practice, you will find the pockets of time. But be prepared and have those journals in all the little places so that you're equipped to do it when the time arrives. And here are some other simple steps. 1, keep it simple. 2, know your why. Have a goal for your journaling. And again, that's going to change over time. Commit. Create an experiment that 1 week or 2 weeks, whatever it is for you. Commit and just go for it. Use a timer. Set a timer for 3, 5, 10 minutes. And once you kind of get in the habit of that, if you want to stretch yourself and, make yourself write 1 minute longer, because sometimes that's where you get to the real juicy stuff. Choose a prompt or a set of prompts. And I'm going to give you a couple here today, but you can also follow me on Instagram at Carla S. Reeves. And every Tuesday, I post a prompt in the stories. And you can also go back to highlights and see some of the past ones, but you can look for those there. And I'd obviously love to engage with you there too. Number 6, more listening, less thinking. So journaling is intended to, 1, you can kind of empty the thought and the noise, but then use it as a vehicle for relaxing your brain. So you can kind of get out of your head, get into your heart, get into a deeper space. And that's where you're going to access your truth and all those yummy, juicy parts of you. Here's a couple prompts that you might get started with. Just simply, what 3 moments stand out to you from the past 24 hours and why? Second prompt would be, what I learned today was. Number 3, might just write down 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for. And I guess I had a 4th one, which is just open your journal and write down an intention for the day. What do you want? Who do you want to be? How do you want to show up? What do you want to see happen today? Remember, there's no right way and there are no rules. Like, this gets to be your playground, and some sort of simple structure is going to give you freedom to start to play in that playground, show up with consistency. And when you show up with consistency for a period of time, you're going to start to reap the rewards, and that's what's going to keep you coming back. It became clear to me that journaling was a tool I had to share with others, and this was a lot of years ago. And today, journaling, as I've shared with you, is a core component in my everyday life and all of my coaching programs. Journaling is a tool literally at your fingertips. I encourage you to explore and go beyond those first thoughts and the noise and debris of your mind, and you're going to find greater clarity, greater peace, and access to greater fulfillment in your everyday lives. I want you to go for it, create an experiment, get started, reach out to me on Instagram through the DMs if you need any kind of support, and there's no better time than today. Go for it. Hey, I'm popping in to let you know that we have some exciting news. We have merch, t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, and more. You can now support the show by shopping the merch, gear for the everyday life innovator. Check out the Lifepreneur shop. Link will be in the show notes. Enjoy. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Differently. I hope it stirred your thinking, and I invite you to take one inspired action from something that stood out to you. If you want to hear more conversations like this, hit follow on your favorite podcast app. And if this episode could impact someone you know, please share it and pass it along. Remember, new episodes drop weekly. See you next week.